All right, thank you there, Marcia. Welcome everyone. We're looking at topics for our webinar series, and Marcia came up with this one, and I think it's a very timely one. We've got some tips for securely connecting and working from home, and we've even got some bonus tips for looking at your internet connection and looking at your computer speeds. So we'll jump right in and get started. As she said, I'm Matt White, Director of Distributed Systems at Cibola College, and co-hosting this with Ron. I'll let Ron introduce himself.
Hello, I'm Ron Coyote. I'm from the College of Central Florida, the interim Associate Vice President, CIO. That's been doing this for 32 years, so back when there were 4-character passwords. The good old days.
Yep, fun times. So, yep, thank you, Ron. So I'm going to jump right in and go through some stuff about your internet connection, and then Ron's going to do the security tips, 10 tips, and then I'm going to do some bonus tips looking at your computer. So let's just jump right in. Feel free to chat. There's the chat going, and Eileen and Marcia are going to help us with that, and we'll probably get to your questions maybe towards the end of each section, kind of thing. That'd probably be good. And then just a reminder, this is all being recorded for the AFC, so it can be viewed later on. I had several people, I emailed it out to all our employees at the college, and had several people say, hey, I can't make it, but I would like to view it later. So this will be recorded on the AFC website. So moving into our your internet connection. So you think, you shouldn't have to say this, a good stable internet connection is preferred, but as Ron and I were talking yesterday, he was telling me about somebody who had a laptop or was wanting a laptop or something, and they're like, I don't have internet at home. So a good stable internet connection is preferred, and especially if you're working from home. Some people are limited on what internet connections they have. They may have a hotspot on their phone, or they may have satellite internet. We'll talk about that in a minute. But if you're not getting a good stable internet connection, I would definitely suggest you find another provider to get a good connection, because it's definitely needed these days. So let's talk about internet speeds. Used to, you could get away with dial-up, and dial-up speeds were, I don't even know, they were 21K or something like that. So that's like a meg is 1,000K. So that was really, really slow dial-up speeds. And then it got to be like a meg and a half. Internet was really good. Now, I mean, I have 300 meg at the house. At the college, we have 500 meg internet, fiber internet. And Ron and I were kind of talking about this, and I think kind of 5 meg is kind of there are some people that have slower connections, and it really does depend on what you do. If you're connecting, doing streaming services, or you're watching videos, but kind of 5 meg is kind of, I think, kind of a baseline minimum. Like I said, there are people do have slower speeds. It's kind of what you can get. But if you're asking kind of what should my minimum be, 5 meg, that's minimum. I would get definitely something closer to 20 or 25. If you have multiple devices streaming, especially watching video, that's, I think, Comcast in our area, 25 meg is the minimum internet you can get with them that they have. So, and that's download speeds. So your internet connection has 2 speeds. There's download speeds and there's upload speeds. So download speeds, when they say, oh, we're going to give you, 300 meg internet, well, that's the download speed they're always talking about. Upload speed typically is a fraction of the download speed. So, like, for example, if you had a 5 meg connection, typically your 5 meg download connection, your upload connection is going to be like 1 meg or even half a meg. We have, I think, 100 meg Comcast connection at the college, and the download and the upload speed is 20 meg. So typically you're downloading, but I will tell you that at Cibola, we've found that upload speeds have become a big issue, especially for our teachers, because they're recording videos of themselves teaching and demoing the different stuff. Well, they're doing that on their machine, and then they have to upload that video to our Canvas instance, and that upload speed becomes important. And we have one teacher that her upload speed at the house is not very good at all, and it was taking hours to upload, a video. So we actually we have internet in the parking lot for our library. And so she comes up there at night and she'll upload her video, and then I think go walking around the college kind of thing. But and it uploads in about 5 minutes at the college because we have a very high upload speed. But so that's kind of just some tidbits about internet speeds. And I mentioned satellite internet, like HughesNet is one of them. Satellite internet, I mean, if that's all you can get, that's all you can get. But the problem with satellite internet is, if you think about it, that connection is going from your house up to the satellite, and then from the satellite back down to another connection. Well, no matter what they do, there is a high latency. And by latency, there's a delay, essentially. That's what that is. So there's a kind of a delay in all that happening. You don't really notice it when you're just doing normal internet stuff. But in what's called synchronous connections, that's real-time two-way connections, like phone calls, doing VoIP phone calls, video meetings, and online gaming. You really see it in that, and satellite is not, unfortunately, not a good fit for that. But like I said, if that's all you can get, that's all you can get. But that is a problem with satellite internet, is the high latency issues. So, and then another great option. So if you're curious, what is my download speed or upload? What is my speeds? Speedtest.net. Not .org or .com. Speedtest.net is where you can go, and it is a great resource. I'm going to demo it here, and you click the go button in the middle. It's free, so there's going to be all these ads all around this stuff. So don't click on any of the ads. Just click on the go button in the very middle there. And you can see that my internet, so there's a couple different things here. There's ping. So that's the latency that we talked about. If you're on a satellite internet, I mean, it can be way up there, in the thousands, the ping time. You want as low of a ping as possible. This is pretty normal. But the lower the ping, the better. That means there's not a delay. Here's my download speed. So 46 megabit. And then here's my upload speed, so 21. So, and just to kind of talk about, I'm paying for 300 meg internet, but I'm only getting 46 megs down and 21 megs up due to the wireless connection. So we'll get into that in a little bit, talking about troubleshooting slow speeds in wireless. But there's a throughput on your wireless speed. And due to this router, I am not able to utilize all 300 megs. But I have the kids have iPads and switches and a TV, and I have a TV. We have a TV in the living room. All those things are streaming, so all these devices together are using the 300 meg. But my one device individually can't utilize the full 300 meg due to the wireless connection. But 46 megs is still pretty good. So it's still a good connection there. So. That's kind of a just a tip there. If you're wanting to know how fast is my internet connection, like you're having trouble, speedtest.net is a great resource. So let's talk wired versus wireless. My motto is, if you can wire your computer to your router, wire it. We follow that at the college. If we can wire it because it's dependable. Wireless is great, and wireless has become more stable and even faster nowadays. But like I said, if you can wire it. And if you're having trouble with your internet, wiring your computer can be a troubleshooting step that we'll go through in just a little bit. So how do you wire something? Look for a Cat 5, Cat 5e, or Cat 6 cable. I would say Cat 5e or Cat 6. Cat 5 cables will work, but they're not very good. They may not give you gigabit. That's 1,000 meg. They may not give you those speeds, but that's what and that's an example of one down here. They look like a phone cord, but a phone cord typically is smaller, has a smaller plug. This is a bigger plug here. And then when you're plugging it into your router, there's going to be Ethernet or LAN ports on your router, and that's where you plug it in, not the internet or WAN, as we'll see in this next diagram here. And this is just kind of a you got your internet coming in. It's going to go into the WAN or internet port, and then you're going to plug in your computer or laptop into one of the Ethernet or LAN ports here on the back. So that's kind of how you can wire. Wireless is fine. I'm doing this presentation on wireless because I'm in a room separate from where my modem is, and my wireless is fine. So you know, it's fine. But if you're having trouble, that might be a troubleshooting step, is to plug your computer directly into wire it directly into your modem, and then see if you're still having trouble. And that kind of might narrow down whether it's your router or not. So let's talk about wireless security. So recommend use WPA2 personal or WPA2 pre-shared key. And this is kind of a screenshot. This would be set up in your wireless modem or wireless router. And if you buy one, like you get one from Comcast, like I'm using the Comcast modem, it's automatically set up by default with WPA2, and it'll give you the pre-shared key on the bottom of the router. You can go in, if you buy one from Walmart, it's going to ask you to set it up. And during the setup, it's going to probably ask you to change your admin password. That's the second tip. That's the password to get into the router to change the settings. So you've got your admin password, and then you've got a wireless password, and the wireless password is what you're going to use to connect all the devices to the wireless network. And it should set that up by default. I think everything defaults to WPA2 during the setup kind of thing. So one of the other things, open wireless. So an open wireless, don't recommend connecting to an open wireless like McDonald's. Or, you know, just open wireless at businesses. And how you know it's open wireless is if you go to connect to it and you don't put in a password to connect to it, then it's an open wireless connection. Open wireless connection, they can see your traffic. Other devices can see your traffic easily. Not all the traffic. I mean, there are some encrypted traffic when you go to HTTPS or SSL sites, but by default, most everything's open. You can use VPN software if you're connecting to an open hotspot, and your college may provide that. There are, you can buy personal VPNs stuff. I think Norton has a VPN, I want to say. And that's like when I go to a travel and I'm at a hotel, which I don't know who's traveling these days at a hotel, but and you have to use an open wireless at a hotel. I always use our college's VPN software to kind of, and the VPN kind of creates a tunnel essentially back to your college's network or back to the VPN provider's network. So it kind of secures your traffic over the software. And VPN, that stands for Virtual Private Network. I had somebody ask about that. SSL, Secure Socket Layer, I think is what that is. What that stands for. Ron's nodding yes, so kind of off the cuff. But yes, and these slides will be available, and the presentation is recorded, and they'll be provided afterwards. So I know we're kind of hitting a bunch of stuff. Feel free to, if you got any questions, chime in the chat. So, but that's wireless security. Like I said, most routers are set up by default now to do this, or during the setup, it'll be set up by default. So, all right. So, had a technician that worked for me, and he used to hate when people would call up and say my internet is slow, because there's so many different things that could be for your internet slow. And it may not even be your internet, maybe your computer. So so let's talk about where the problem might be. So first thing you can do is look at what devices you have. So like I have a modem that is also a wireless router, so it's provided by Comcast. It's one device. That's my device. You could have a modem and then have a wireless router, and then your device is connected to that. So now you have two devices. And the wireless router you probably got from Walmart or Best Buy or something like that. So you need to look at your internet connection area and see what devices you have. First thing you can do is run a speed test. So speedtest.net. I've talked about the ping, the download, the upload speeds, kind of see what those are. If you know what you're paying for, then you can kind of compare that to what you're paying for to see if you're getting the speeds. I would just suggest running it anyways when things are fine, so that you have a baseline to compare it to. So if you're in trouble and you run speedtest.net and you get a result, you really have no idea what is normal or not. So I would say run it now when things are normal, so that way you know kind of what your speeds are. And then if you're having trouble, you can run it and you can say, oh, well, I'm not getting what I'm supposed to be getting. So run that first. If your speed test results are normal, it could be that the site you're trying to go to is having trouble. With all the load on sites these days, such as Canvas and Office 365, some of the sites are struggling at times. If you do a speed test and you're getting fine results, internet speed wise, it could be the site that you're trying to go to. So the next step is to try to isolate, is it a wireless problem or is it a problem with my internet? And if you call, like if I call Comcast and I say, I'm having trouble, first thing they're going to do is say, can you plug your laptop or a computer directly into the modem and do a speed test? And so if usually if you buy a wireless router from Walmart, it's going to come with an Ethernet cable. It's probably yellow or red. It's always good to keep one of those around. But plug your laptop or computer directly into the modem if you can. Run a speed test. Compare the results to the first one. In my case, and if you have a higher speed internet, like I mentioned, wireless is not as fast as wired. So I was getting 46 megs over the wireless connection. If I plug my laptop into the router, I'm probably going to get a full 300 megs in the speed test. You can compare your wired test to the wireless, and if it's dramatically better, like say I ran a speed test over wireless and it was getting like 1 meg or 5 meg, and then I plugged it into the modem and I was getting 300 meg. Well, that's way better, and not what I normally get over wireless. So then something's probably wrong with the wireless modem or the wireless setting. So, somebody was saying about the plug. Yes, laptops these days probably some of them don't have Ethernet ports anymore. So that is a problem. And you can get a Ethernet on Amazon. You can get a USB to Ethernet dongle that just plugs in and will give you an Ethernet connection. I think they're like $6 or $7 kind of thing if you look for them on Amazon. So, but that is a problem nowadays. They're trying to make laptops skinnier and smaller. So some of them do not have Ethernet ports. But anyways, going back to the speed test, if you run the speed test, and like I said, they're way better than the wireless, and you run it over the wireless, it could be your wireless router if you have a separate wireless router. That's just kind of something to test for. So if the wireless is slow or doesn't work sometimes, that's another problem. You can plug in wired and you have no trouble whatsoever with the internet, but over wireless, sometimes it just cuts out. Sometimes it says there's no connection. If rebooting your wireless router fixes it, as the graphic, what my family thinks I do when I fix the internet connection, what I actually do is unplug it and plug it back in. You can, if rebooting your wireless router fixes things, it's probably time to get a new wireless router. And this is something Ron and I were talking about. One of the first troubleshooting steps, I usually ask people, how old is your wireless router? And if it's older than 3 years or really 2 years, and I say, okay, does rebooting it, powering it off, powering it on, does that fix it? Then yeah, you probably need a new wireless router. They don't last very long. They're on all the time, and there's heat issues. And they're, the commercial, the ones you get from Walmart and Best Buy, they're not made to last long. The ones you get from like Comcast, like this router I've had for several years. So they do last. The commercial ones do last longer, but they can have issues too. call your provider. You're probably more than likely paying a rental fee for that modem. And if it's their modem's problem, they'll send you another one, or you can get another one from them. So, but now if you have a second wireless, then you're probably going to have to go to Walmart and get another one. But just more than likely, if your internet is cutting off or not working sometimes, and rebooting your router fixes it, it's the router, and it's time to replace the router. Some other internet troubleshooting tips. What other devices are on your network? Nowadays, there's TVs, gaming consoles, security cameras, security systems, and potentially your neighbors. WPA2, while secure, mostly secure, is still hackable. Given enough time and enough packets sent to the router, and depending on the complexity of your password, that's something that I didn't mention, but you do want to set a good, strong password for your WPA2. If you just say home as your password, and somebody really wants to get in, they can get in, because it's just a matter of time. And there are tools out there that can hack WPA2 passwords, short, small passwords like that. So you want a secure password, a longer password, and it doesn't have to be a bunch of crazy, complicated characters and all that. Just like with your passwords for your network or whatever, you can make it a sentence. The dog ate the cat, capital T, spaces in between, exclamation point on the end. That's a pretty secure password. I don't, it's probably not anymore because I've said it like 1,000 times, but you can make a secure password like that by making it a sentence that you can remember with capitalization and spaces and punctuation kind of thing. So you can do that with your wireless as well. So you can log into the admin feature on your modem or Wi-Fi router and see what devices are connected. Xfinity with Comcast has an awesome app, the Xfinity Wi-Fi app. And if I have it on my phone, and if I want to see what's connected, and actually when a new device connects to my wireless, it'll send me a notification from the app and say, hey, this new device is connected. Like if I bring a laptop home to work on or something like that, and I connect it to the wireless, it'll ping me saying a new device is connected, which is really great. So I know that there's not any new devices connecting or neighbors connecting to my wireless. Another great feature for some of these modems is being able to pool devices together and turn off internet, turn on internet. Like I said, the Xfinity one. I have a profile where I've grouped my kids' devices together, their switches, their iPads, and their Xbox, which is connected to their TV. I call it the kids' profile. And so when it's time to go to bed, I tell them, all right, 5 minutes, you're going to get no internet. And it'll allow me to pause the internet just for their devices. So that way we can still watch Netflix on our TV and have our phones and all that stuff. But so there are some apps out there for, I think, Linksys and Netgear. They have some apps for their routers. And you can do some of that stuff in the settings. So it's a little more advanced, and the apps do make it a little easier to use. And the Comcast Xfinity one is free, so it's pretty neat. You can, I think with the X5, I think is what it's called. You can set times, like you can say, I want them to, from especially now when they're at the house all day, doing homeschooling. I don't want them to be on the internet for 8 hours a day. I only want them to be on there for maybe 3 hours or 4 hours or an hour, So you can say hours per day, or you can say during these hours. So like there's a hard kind of bedtime of 9 o'clock. You can cut the internet off automatically at 9 o'clock. So there's some pretty cool things. So check your wireless router or your internet provider if you're using that, and see if they have an app for the router that can control some of that stuff. So, and if for some reason your neighbors, like you gave your password to your neighbors, or your neighbors got onto figured out your password kind of thing, change your password. Log into the admin feature in your modem and change your wireless password, and that'll kick them off. If they hacked your wireless, it'll kick them off for a little while, depending on how securely your password is. And if you find that there's devices connected that you don't know, change your password and make it a longer, stronger password kind of thing. So that's one way to keep people off your network. All right, so jumping into the securities 10 tips, I'll throw it to Ron.
All right, thanks a lot. So First one's lock your device before you walk away. This is no different than you're at work. And I really want to emphasize that, we all organizations spend a lot of money on security, but all that money is kind of thrown away if the users don't do what they're supposed to do, because you are the first line of defense of what happens in an organization. No matter what anybody says, doesn't matter what we buy, doesn't matter what we implement, if the users don't follow the procedures and they don't do what they're asked to do, you'll get compromised. That's just how it's going to be. So first, you don't leave a computer unlocked and leave it alone. All sorts of things can happen. Your kids can actually type something in and start a transaction by accident just because you left it there. So, I mean, it's just important to keep it secure. So the next one. So you should use corporate email, messaging, and storage. And one of the things I wanted to emphasize, I'll probably say it several times, about knowing where your data is. A lot of folks take data home to work. Sometimes it might have a PII in it, where we have personal information in that you have to protect, and you have it in your home. If you're using outside sources, in other words, using home email or using home messaging, or even texting to do business, a lot of that stuff becomes sunshineable, including all your text in your phone if you start using it for business. So it's really important to make sure you're using work resources to do your work. And be really careful of where you're storing stuff. Most companies decide on where they want you to store data. They'll approve places that you can put it. A lot of schools have went with OneDrive and other things that they say this is where you can put stuff, but they probably have restricted PII from those locations. But it's really important to know where the data is. Another point is if you're using a personal computer at home and you're having to transfer data, you have no choice. That's how you have to work. You have to remember you did that. What happens when you get rid of that computer later? You go get another one, toss that one in the trash, or put it in recycling. I don't know if you guys remember, maybe it was like 5 to 6 years ago, they did I think Dateline bought a whole bunch of copiers, and they took the hard drives out and they started looking at what was on those hard drives. Same thing happens with computers when people recycle those. So it's really important, if you're going to store work-related data on a personal machine, that you take responsibility to make sure that that data doesn't stay on that machine after this whole thing is over with. Next slide. Stay vigilant. Again, at the beginning I said you're the #1 part of our security plan. Every employee is the #1 part of the security plan. We spend a lot of time telling you and kind of informing you of the things people are trying to do. Us guys who work in security, we read reports all the times of things that people do by accident. One of the #1 things is to mix your work and your personal stuff together. You're using your personal email for work, or you're using your personal computer for work, but you have your home email opened, or you're at work and you have your personal email open while you're working, and you mix those two together, and that it's just a bad combination. You just have to be really vigilant of what's happening, and be vigilant about how you're at home. You're usually relaxed. You're not paying attention to what because you're at home. You're not thinking about things. But just remember, at work, you're supposed to be vigilant of what people are doing on your machines and what kind of data you're allowing to be exposed. You have to be really careful at home that you don't, maybe you left your machine, you left some data out there, and the bug man comes through the house. Or you have a contractor in doing something and you have personal information. You have to be just as careful with that information at home as you are at work. Next slide, please. It is preferred that you keep work data on work computers. It's a really dangerous thing to be mixing the two, and it's really dangerous to store them on your personal devices. So Uh, at all costs, if you can do it without moving that data onto a personal device, you should try to do that. Next slide. So this has to do with you sitting at a coffee shop doing work, which Matt has warned you is kind of dangerous, and informed you about the VPN and a way you can do that. But there's also people looking over your shoulders trying to see what's going on. People look over your shoulder when you're signing on. People look over your shoulder when you're looking at data. It's kind of important to block those sight lines so that people can't gain information. And I just want to add, you know, Matt did a good presentation on your passwords for your router at home. And those passwords, on top of being complex, being a sentence or something, they should be something that somebody could guess because they know you. You know, so, you know, if they know something about you and they can guess that password, that is the number one way people break into systems, is they've guessed the password of that person by doing social engineering and figuring out what they would use for a password. So it's important to make sure that that password really isn't easy to guess based on your personality or your characteristics. Next slide. You should encrypt all sensitive data. We had a conversation about this, you know, last week here on the campus. We had some people didn't realize how they would set up their printers at home to work on their systems. And they actually emailed data to their personal email accounts and then opened it up on their computers to print. Because we use a VDI system here at the college. A lot of people, since we have devices nowadays and you're used to hooking your email to your phone or your tablet or your laptop, you're not used to using a webmail anymore, where you're logging in via the web to your email. And then people had forgotten they had the ability to do that. So they were transferring stuff when they could have just logged on to their webmail. So, I mean, you always want to go to the source of the data. You know, in the previous tip, I talked about using work-related resources. This goes along with that. Also, remember, when you put something in an email, it sticks around a long time. People very rarely delete emails. So, you know, if you have sensitive data in your email and it's not in an encrypted file, then it's in an open environment that sits there for a long time. So if you can easily encrypt it, you should encrypt it at all times. You know, next slide. Lock your doors. I know this sounds funny, but you're at home and you have your devices sitting around and you have your personal data, you have the work data, you have PII sitting there that you're working on. Your doors should be locked. It shouldn't be somewhere that people can just walk in and out. So it's really important to lock your doors. I know it's simple, but you know, you need to think about it. You're at work when you're working, and you need to protect that data. Next slide. Never leave your devices or laptops in the car. You know, some of the horrifying reports you read about devices being left in cars. You know that every person who has a pilot's license back, let's see, I think the incident happened in 2013. An inspector had the database of all the pilots with their pilot's license and information, so that when they walked up to a pilot, they could ask them and say, "Hey, let me see your credentials," and check if they were valid. Kind of like a cop would check your driver's license. Well, that was just in a database. It wasn't online. It was just a database in there. Somebody stole that laptop. And back when that was done, all of our pilot's licenses, our ID was our social security number. So that person stole a database with everybody's name, address, phone number, social security number, everything that had to be disclosed. So, you know, that had to be made a big change. But anyway, leave it in your car, leaves it in danger. If somebody's stealing it, think about it as something you don't want to lose, right? So I did want to note, you know, everybody's afraid of passwords. You know, you have a lot of passwords and there's a lot of long passwords. There are password managers that you can put on your phone or a tablet that encrypt those passwords and make it easy for you to get to. It's a good thing to have, but remember, you don't want to lose it because then you're not going to have your passwords. Right? So, you know, keep an eye on it. Don't leave them in your car. Next slide. Never pick up a random thumb drive and stick it in your machine. And don't use it. It's a common practice for people to just throw some thumb drives out in a parking lot or in a hallway, or they just stick them around because people will pick them up and they will stick them in their machines and think, oh, I got a free thumb drive out of this. Somebody just lost it. Well, it's a common way to break into stuff. So don't pick up random thumb drives and stick them in a machine. Next slide. This one's kind of, you know, people don't think about it, but you guys saw all the news reports over the last couple of years over people skimming your credit card information out of a credit card machine when you're buying your gas or whatever. Well, this is similar to that kind of thieving. They put a device on charging cables so that you know, when you go to a public charging cable and you plug your device in, and they'll try and grab the data out of the device because you plugged in and charging. So it's important to block that. Now, a lot of our phones have the ability to not trust that connection. But what that charging protection thing does basically is it only connects the power to allow it to charge. It doesn't allow the data to transfer. So it's a good device to have, especially if you're going to use public charging ports. Lastly, when you look at what we're doing, this is unprecedented for us all to try and work from home. And all the different things everybody's trying to do to get the work done. And it's admirable, everything that everybody's doing. You see people going above and beyond to get the work done and keep these colleges running. But it's really important that we all work together not to get away from our standards, practices, and protecting the data. That's when those breaches are going to happen. On our iron port, our device that we use to watch the email, the amount of phishing attacks has gone up 90%. It's an enormous amount of phishing attacks going on to get you to click on things, to get you to, you know, we had one go out last week that was trying to verify, you know, your encryption credentials. And they're trying to get you to click on it. And they write a very good message to get you to do it. So, you know, my rule of thumb, which I think everybody should follow, is if it has something for you to click in an email, don't click it. You just shouldn't. You know, and if you know it's coming and you talk to the user, that only by voice verification should you do it, because you just never know what that click is going to do. And you know, as much as us IT guys try and think of everything we can to protect those devices, to stop them from being able to do something, there's a new vulnerability that comes out every day. You guys have all heard of Patch Tuesday, right? Everybody heard of Patch Tuesday? Patch Tuesday is just basically a term, but every Tuesday, Microsoft releases security patches for their devices and for their software. Every Tuesday, weekly, there is a breach or something out there that can get into a system. So, you know, with all that's worth, you know, you got to think about it. There's a lot of people out to get the data. So with that, Matt, we got questions? Or are you going to do the bonus tips? Do the bonus tips.
Yeah. Just to tack on to what Ron was talking about in terms of email stuff, display name spoofing has been a big problem these days. And what they'll do is they will send an email and it will say, for example, it'll have your college president's name, but the email address will actually be from something gmail.com. Well, most everybody's got their email on their phone, and in the phone apps, email apps, it doesn't show you the email address. It just shows you the name. that they put in there, and that's not checked anywhere. So in the olden days, they would spoof the email. So they would send an email with your president's name and your president's email address, because there's not really any security in email, and it would come through and it would look like it came from them, but it really didn't. Well, now there's stuff in place and you really can't do that anymore. But so what they do is they just spoof the display name, and it's coming from a different email address, but you don't see that email address. Like if on your iPhone in the Mail app, you see the name, and if you hold your finger down on the name, then it will show you the actual email address. Now that's why you see all these banners that say front caution from outside our organization, the yellow or red banners kind of thing. That's trying to let people know that this email didn't really come from our organization, caution kind of thing. So the display name is really popular. And here recently, what they're doing is they're sending an email, and like from a supervisor they'll pull it up off your website. And like a cashier in the business department, they'll send it from the business officer to the cashier, and they'll say, "Hey, are you available?" And they won't ask for anything. They'll just say, "Hey, are you available?" They won't have a link or anything. And then you respond back, and then that's when they make the ask is after that. And now what they're doing is they're asking for your phone number. They're saying, "Hey, I'm tied up in a meeting. Can you send me your cell phone number so I can text you?" And then you send them your cell phone number, and a lot of people fall for that one. Then especially nowadays with working from home, they think it's, they don't see the banner, they don't click on the name. And so then the person texts them, says, "Hey, I'm tied up in a meeting. I need you to go get some gift cards for something or other." So display name spoofing and there's things we can do to mitigate it, but there's some ways we can stop it. But they're finding ways around all that type stuff. Yes, and that's talking about public-facing email addresses and organizational charts. That is something to combat that, is taking all that stuff off the web, which makes it harder for people to communicate and find your email address. You know what I mean? So it's what's kind of the bigger evil kind of deal. So that's display name spoofing is really bad these days, and just be aware of that, especially if you're on your phone using email. If you're cautious of it, hold your finger down on the name, and it'll show you their email address. Make sure it's a college email address. Make sure it doesn't have the banner out there saying it came from outside the organization, kind of thing. Somebody was asking about spam texts. I don't know of a way to stop that. I mean, there's a do not call list, but that's do not call. I don't think I don't know what that has to do with texting. You can block it once they text you something. You can usually block it on your phone so that you can't get another one. But I don't know of a way to, I think Verizon, I want to say has like a spam filter thing you can sign up for, where they will say, like, I know I have it, it says potentially spam when somebody is calling and they've spammed a number. But text messages, I don't know of anything really that can stop the text messaging. So that's aggravating. So, all right, moving into our bonus tips. We're getting on up there in time. So real quick, some of the other things from working at home. My computer is slow. That's another one of those things that people call at the help desk and say, "My computer is slow," and it's, well, what are you trying to do? So one of the common things and easiest ways, if your computer is running slow, not necessarily your internet, but your just computer's dragging, the task manager in Windows is an awesome resource. And you can to right click on your taskbar in the bottom of your desktop and choose task manager. And we're going to do that really quick. So as you can see, I did that really quick. Let me do it again. Right click anywhere. Don't right click on a program, but right click in a free space in the taskbar down here. Hopefully everybody can see that. And then task manager is right here. And then it's going to come up in this little minimized view, which is great because you can kill a program if it shows up here. But you really want to click on more details, because who wants more details? Everybody. So now you've got some tabs. You can sort by the different columns here, which is very helpful. So I'm not on a very powerful computer. As you can see, it's chewing up half my CPU and more than half of my memory, but my disk is 0. So, and I'll get to that in a minute. So if for some reason you want to, if these are 100%, one of these columns, one of these are 100%, these first three, then that's your problem. And you need to see what's, like, say CPU is 100%. You can sort it by clicking on the column and see Zoom is chewing up most of my resources. So that way right there I can see. Now, if for some reason it's a program I don't want to use, you can say end task, and you can kill it. That's how you can kill it there. And then you can sort it by some of these other columns. So see, Zoom's chewing up all of my memory too. So on this laptop, Zoom is using a lot of stuff. So somebody said, when I go to Task Manager, I don't know what they mean when I go to that screen. Okay, so that's the Task Manager. You've got these are your different components of your computer, such as your CPU, your memory, your disk space, basically what it's doing, or what you can use it for, is to kind of pin down a program or that's chewing up your resources. And if it's disk that's chewing up all your resources, we'll get to that in a minute. But this is kind of Task Manager. Just kind of wanted to show you that. Might help you pin down what's happening there. Computer specs. That's another one. So say my CPU and resources being chewed up, and it's a normal program, and I like get Zoom and I need it to do my job, kind of thing. And you want to know, well, what are my specs for my computer? If you go to Control Panel and then go to System, it will actually show you the specs of your computer, and I will do that here. If you click the search icon and just type in Control, as about the easiest way I've found to get to Control Panel these days. And then in Control Panel, you may see Category View here. I always hit the drop down and choose Smile icons. That way I can get to exactly what I want. And I choose System. And then here I'm on a Windows 10 Pro laptop. I have an i3 processor, which is bare minimum and I have 4 gigs of memory, which is bare minimum as well. As I've told people, this is I'm the announcer for the basketball games at the college. And because I'm working from home, this is the laptop that we use to run the sound in the gym. So it's not a very stout laptop, but it gets the job done. I did upgrade the hard drive, which we'll talk about in a minute. So, but this is kind of, if you're saying, well, what specs do I have on my computer, to kind of show you that, what operating system you're running and what your processor is and memory. Here's kind of where you can see some of that stuff through the Control Panel. So talking about disk usage in Windows 10. So I was talking about this laptop specifically. It was struggling with Windows 10, and one of the most common things we're finding, in me anyways, in the IT field, is that Windows 10 chews up the hard drive if it's a spinning drive. And what do I mean by spinning drive? A spinning drive, so hard drives typically they have platters in them, and they spin really, really fast, and the faster they spin, the faster the hard drive runs. Well, and typically they're 5,400 RPM or 7,200 RPM drive, and most desktop servers have like 10,000 or 15,000 RPM. Well, those were great for a time before Windows 10. Well, for some reason, Windows 10 just decides it wants to go crazy on the hard drive when you first boot a computer up. And for about 20 minutes, if you have a spinning drive, it will do 100% disk space. And this is Task Manager, like I said, and this is what it will look like, and it'll say System. And so if your computer is slow when it starts up, go to Task Manager and see if your disk is 100% utilized. And if it is, you probably got a spinning drive. So the next version of hard drives is what's called an SSD, or solid state drive. Basically, it's a big flash drive, like a USB flash drive, but it's just a bigger hard drive. And it's all flash. There are no moving components in it. And it is really fast. I mean, it's a lot faster than a spinning drive. So You can get like a 500 gig off a Newegg for like $60, I think. And Walmart actually has them. So if you feel gun ho and you want to upgrade your laptop hard drive and reinstall your operating system, if you feel like you can do that, go out to Walmart and they have a 256 gig for $48, I think, and then I think a 512 gig for $60, I want to say, in the electronics section with the external hard drives. There's actually an internal hard drive, a Western Digital blue one. And I'm telling you, it makes a world of difference. If I didn't have this laptop, the hard drive actually died in it, and I put a solid state drive in it, and that's the only reason why I'm able to use it with the specs it has. If your laptop's running slow, look at the hard drive usage when you boot up, and you may need either a new laptop or you can put I've put a solid state drive in an 8-year-old laptop, and it for a Christian school that I do IT stuff for, and students are still using it. So it's a cheap way to increase performance in older laptops. So another question that I always get asked: what specs for a new computer? So say you don't want to upgrade your hard drive, or you have an older computer. Get asked this all the time, and you're looking to get a new computer. Of course, you want Windows 10. The latest version is 1909, 1903. It's probably not going to say that on the box. It's just going to say Windows 10. There's Home and there's Pro versions. Pro gives you some more features, work type features, but Home will be fine. Processor, I usually recommend an Intel processor. There are AMD processors. Some people have fine results with all that. We haven't had good results at the college, but the AMD does make good processors, and they are a little bit cheaper than Intel. And I really couldn't tell you the versions of AMD processors to look for, honestly, because like I said, we don't use them. So I usually recommend an Intel. Intel has a Celeron. Don't get that. I don't even know if they even make that anymore. And they have a Pentium, and that's a cheaper processor too. I usually recommend an i3, i5, i7. If you're crazy in a desktop computer, you can get an i9 now. It's crazy. Minimum's an i3. Like I said, that's what I'm using in this laptop. If you can get an i5, get an i5. Your computer, the processor you can replace. Somebody can replace it, but typically you don't replace that. So the processor, the bigger processor or better processor you get when you buy it, the longer your computer is going to last. So if you get an i5 or an i7, you may get another 3 years out of that laptop or computer, whereas you would only get 5 years, out of an i3 kind of thing. The RAM or the memory, 4 gig minimum, and like I said, if you don't do a lot, you might get by with that, but 6 gig or 8 gig at least is what I usually recommend people. More, they have 12 gig, 16 gig that you can get in there. And of course, the solid state drive. I would highly recommend not buying a computer with a 5400 RPM or 7200 RPM hard drive. And it'll tell you in the drive specs. There'll be the size of the drive, and then there'll be the type of drive. And look for an SSD. The cheaper laptops are going to have a 128 gig SSD drive. That's not really a lot. Windows is going to chew up half of that drive at least, and then that's not going to leave you enough. If you just got to get by with a cheap laptop, you can get by with 128 gig, but I would suggest a 256 gig or higher, or even a 512 kind of thing. So, but you definitely want a solid state drive in laptops, especially in computers, because you're going to get a lot of life out of that. So I always recommend Dell. They're just about all the manufacturers are mostly the same in terms of components, but where Dell shines is the repair. So if you ever have to have your computer repaired, they're awesome in getting all that stuff done. So, but HP's fine, or some of the Lenovo makes a good one. As long as it has the specs above, kind of those minimal specs, any of them should be fine. Let's see, other work from home tips. We're getting towards the end. So antivirus is another one. Windows Defender is free and built into Windows 10. It's a pretty good antivirus. I have a link to a PC Mag article about top antiviruses. I think Norton is actually the one they recommend. which has kind of come around because for years Norton was bloatware, or it would slow your computer down. But now I guess they're back at the top there, and I think they have like $20 yearly subscription thing that you can do. So that's in the resources coming up next. If for some reason you're having trouble and like you got pop-ups and your computer's running slow or something, you can run Malwarebytes. It's called MBAM, MBAM, and there's a link in the resources. There's a free version and there's a paid version, pro version. You want to run the free version and it'll, whatever it shows you clean up. I don't think I've ever had it where it deleted something and screwed up my system there. It's pretty good program. And home use, and then clear your browser extensions. So just wanted to show real quick in Chrome how to do that, because this is another common problem. You'll get a lot of pop-ups, or you'll get free coupons. People try to get free coupons, and there it's popping up like you go to a web page, it'll highlight stuff. If you go up to your little bar here, up at the top, you got the three dots, and then you go to more tools. This is Chrome, and then you say extensions. So I don't have anything on this machine, but you may have a print free coupon, or you may have a PDF printer or something or another here, and just delete them. That's how you can get rid of a lot of the pop-ups and a lot of the problems, is by clearing your browser extensions these days. And you may not even need to run Malwarebytes. Use webmail. A lot of people don't realize that they have webmail. They think that they have to access it on their phone, but most all the colleges have Office 365, and you can get to your mail through webmail, that is still around, and it's pretty useful. And you can access your OneDrive if you have that through there as well. So thought we would mention that. Google Voice for masking the office phone forwarded to your cell phone. Several of the colleges are using this, or are recommending this to people that, so what happens is if you forward your office phone to your cell phone, when people call your office phone, then they get your cell phone number, or if you have to call them back, then they got your cell phone number. A lot of people don't want to do that. Well, Google Voice is a free service that Google offers, and it's an app that you put on your phone, and you get a phone number, and you forward your office phone to that phone number. And then you can even call and text through that kind of phone number. And so when the people see it or get calls or texts from you, it comes from that phone number, and they don't get your cell phone number. So that's a helpful thing. Another thing is scanning documents with your phone's camera. And this is one, the Notes app on iPhone works really well. Microsoft Office has an app called Lens. And basically it'll use your camera to scan something, take a picture of it, and convert it to a PDF. The little trick with the Notes app for iPhone. So I have an iCloud account, with my iPhone, and then I have my college exchange email account. Well, you had to enable the notes for iCloud under the iCloud settings in order for you to scan. It won't scan under your settings that go to Exchange. So you have to go to iCloud settings and enable notes, and then you'll be able to scan it. And it works really well. Update your Zoom client software on your computer. That's a security tip. They had some security updates recently, and always keep that up to date if you're using that. And of course, backing up your work files. So as Ron was talking about, you may be putting your work files on your personal laptop. It's best to keep it on your work computer or work laptop, but if you're putting it on your personal device, well, now if something happens to that personal device, you've lost your files. So using your OneDrive to back it up, or if you're you have Google Drive that you're using that, whatever your college policies for backing up recommend. And if you're using a USB drive, make sure that's secure, the old school kind of way. So some tips for working resources. There's top 5 tips, and this is sans.org. These first 3 are. Let's see if I can, I was gonna paste these into the, paste the hyperlink, copy a hyperlink, paste them in here, because when you get the recording, you're not going to have the PowerPoint's going to be out there, I guess. Eileen, is the PowerPoint going to be out there too? Okay, well, never mind. You're good. Securing your workplace and securing your kids online. How to secure your wireless network goes through some of the tips about changing your password and stuff. Here's Kaspersky thing about remote work security, and then 8 best practices for working remotely. Here's the best antivirus from PC Mag, Malwarebytes.com. So here are some of the resources here that'll be on the PowerPoint. And I've kind of running through things. We're right at an hour. Lots of information. Questions out there. I see my boss is talking about he's going to buy me a laptop on here. So and then he's also saying Zoom will force an upgrade to V5. Yes, in May 30th there's a major they're like skipping versions and coming out with some major security updates, and they're going to force the upgrade to everybody, which is great. So look for that Zoom upgrade. So anybody have any questions? It's a lot of information. So, go back and watch it all. I was trying to run through it. I apologize for running quickly, but, it's a lot of information to cover. So,
it was great. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Ron. For those non-techies like me, it was a lot of information. I will have to pull up the PowerPoint and call you or Eileen because I don't understand it. It's Greek. You lost me, and I was like, I'm gone.
Sorry.
Appreciate the information, and it's helpful. Just some of those things are simple things, the changing of the passwords and password protecting things, all of that. So for the novice like me, even that information is helpful because it's reminding me of things I need to be doing while I'm working from home. And then the bigger ticket items that require me to talk to somebody, at least now I'll be able to use the right terminology. So that's helpful, I think. Are there any questions? Anybody? If you will unmute yourself or type it in the chat, we'll try to give a minute here for questions before we log off. Anybody? All right, Jesse, I see you're still out there. I didn't see Yakir on the chat, but Jesse, would you like to tell anybody about anything upcoming with the Technology Commission as we wait for any questions?
Sure, Marsha, and thank you, Ron and Matt. Appreciate you guys for the great presentation. Elaine, and of course, thank you as well. The Technology Commission, I'm the Technology Commission chair. So we always welcome new members to join and to be a part of. If you don't want to be on the board, there was always, you can be, as I always say, in the background. So, you can always join. We always offer you to join. We have this coming up, the Exemplary Practice Award competition. It's going to be coming up in June. The deadline for that is coming up. So, of course, if you'd like to win a little money, please submit your presentation. So the deadline for that is going to be June the 5th by 5 p.m. So please submit those, and we'll be judging those on the 24th of July. So the first prize is going to be $250, and second prize is $150, and third prize is $100. So please submit those. So my email address is claytonj@tcc.fl.edu. So we have those posted on the website. So you can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Thank you, Marsha.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Matt, there's a question from Mark.
Chromebooks. Chromebooks are great. As a cheap, they're really cheap. You can get them for like $180 or something like that. Some Chromebooks. The downside to Chromebooks is it's essentially a Chrome browser. So you can do anything you can do in a Chrome browser, which is a lot. But if you need to install a full program, like if you want the full version of Office, you can't do that. Or if you need to install another Windows program, like I'm trying to draw on a blank, but if you need to install a full Windows program, you need a full desktop. And a Chromebook is just essentially a Chrome browser. You can save some documents to the Chromebook to have offline, kind of thing on your desktop, but it's basically a Chrome browser. So, and you can do a lot of stuff in Chrome, but I know that at our college, we had Respondus for the lockdown browser for the proctoring, and the students were hollering because you could not do proctoring with Respondus on a Chromebook. They're working on a Chromebook feature, but that was a problem. And when we went to the distance learning, full distance learning situation, we ended up buying HonorLock, which does work with Chromebooks. And so we're kind of proctoring in Respondus and HonorLock now. So that's really the only thing I've run across in terms of Chromebooks. We don't have any at the college. But as just a general internet, general usage, anything you can do in a Chrome browser, you can do on it, which is a lot. So it's a good alternative if it works for you.
Ron, I saw you shaking your head. Do you agree?
I agree with what he said. Yeah,
Okay.
There's a lot of things you can't do.
Okay.
There's a lot of things you can do. It's kind of in the middle.
Gotcha.
Don't buy one expecting a full laptop. Let's just say that.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's more like an iPad.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can do limited stuff, whatever you can do via apps, you can do that way. But
Okay. See, it's that whole terminology thing. You said like an iPad. I'm like, oh, okay, now I get it.
It's limited. You can't do everything on an iPad. So
what the heck does that mean?
Yeah, it's limited.
All right, you all. Well, listen, again, great presentation. Thank you so much. Technology Commission, Campus Safety Commission, thank all of you for joining us. I know you got some great tips. We'll be sending this out this afternoon where you'll have the PowerPoint and the recording. Matt and Ron, hats off to both of you gentlemen for all I'm sure you've been doing since everybody has had to move to this remote virtual world that we're in. Kudos to all of our IT folks. We realize that your jobs have been nonstop, probably sometimes 24/7. So thank you for everything you've done and you're doing. With that, we will say have a great afternoon. Anybody interested in yoga? We will have yoga at 2 today with Kermit from Tallahassee Community College. Yes, I got to start stretching now.
Is that goat yoga?
No goat yoga yet. We're working on that. And then on Thursday, we have our Technology Commission will have another workshop. It will be we will be talking about the FISH program, and what else this week? Region 4 is having their conference on Fridays. A lot going on, you all. Please, please, please come back and check us out. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.